Here's one of the latest interviews from Rock and Metal Revival. If you want to hear the whole show, go to rmrshow.com. From the CD, Heavy Rock Radio. There's one of our favorite artists on Rock and Metal Revival, Jorn, and that is the cover of Queen's Killer Queen. And, dude, what an excellent job on that.
I love this album, dude. I've been listening to it ever since we got it, man.
And it is no secret to the fans of Rock and Metal Revival that we are big supporters of Jorn Lande, and it is an honor to finally get him on the show. Live from Norway. Jorn, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, man. I mean, it's an honor, man.
Jorn,
thanks for having me.
Jorn, first off, I just have to ask, what made you do an album full of covers, and why the artists that you picked?
Well, I've always kept busy writing my own albums or co-writing stuff, with others, and I usually took on too much work, and just time flew by, and all these great songs that I grew up with, I never just didn't have time to record them, and I always wanted to record some of these songs from the 70s and 80s, and of course there's a couple of tracks or more recent tracks there as well, but most of it's based around my youth when I was, teenager and stuff, so I had a list of 40, 50 songs, and I had to pick 12, 15 tracks for the album. So I have to, probably have to do another one in some time in the future, because still some great songs on that list that didn't make it on this record. I just wanted to have a certain flow, same. I try to think the same way as when I do an original album. So to find the right flow and to make it interesting. Also,
all right.
Also when you don't have also when you do covers record, people usually don't really like it that much, because covers albums don't really sell that much. That's what the record companies always say. We need original material. Covers albums don't sell as much as original records and stuff. It's a kind of when you want to prove them wrong in a way. You want to kind of do something special with these songs and pick the right running order and all that to make it interesting. So you could say that despite being a covers album, it's a bit of an original,
for sure,
kind of. Stamp that we put on this record still, and we took some time and effort to make some of these songs rock.
Exactly.
So and especially some of these more pop related songs. I mean, even Killer Queen was still a bit more heavy than the original one, and
exactly.
But especially Running Up That Hill, originally by Kate Bush. It's nothing to do with rock really from the beginning. It might be, you could call it experimental pop, or you could call it progressive pop or whatever. But very artistic. I mean, she's such a brilliant artist, and so that was a bit of a challenge. But when you just work with the bass, drums, and guitars, it's kind of you just have to stick to that recipe and try to find the best solution and something that's interesting. And so that song actually was totally changed, except for the vocal melodies. It came out great in the end. So same with I Know There's Something Going On.
Nice.
Originally by Frida. Frida used to be one of the singers in ABBA, and a great song. Phil Collins played drums on the original track, and I always felt that song was like missing, in lack of something. They had this huge drum sound, heavy drumming by Phil, and cool bass, everything. Arrangements were great, production was great. Reminded me a bit of the old Genesis stuff like Mama or In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins, and he obviously used the same kind of sound or production methods for her album. So, then again, it's like the song lends itself to rock in a way, naturally, because So that's why we just thought that playing those guitars, just following the main structure of the song was it just worked. It was just very fast and natural. So it came out. Some songs were easier than others to arrange and adapt to, or to Jornify.
Jornify,
in a way.
That's a good term right there. Because
sorry.
Oh
yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean it's what you said. It's some call it to have the songs Jornized, and some say Jornified. But it's kind of it's the right way to put it, I think, because I would not have picked the songs if I didn't know I could put my stamp on them somehow, or make it personal somehow. I mean, I grew up with these songs; they're part of my youth, and I always tend to think that when we were young, we were more honest. In general, we when we listened to music and really liked something or connected with a song, it was less political. Today you like something and you consider everything. Consider the production. You consider, if it's modern or not, or if it's boring old stuff that you heard before. You consider all these aspects of the business before you kind of decide if this is a good quality thing or not. And then in the end you say, well, it's a good song. I really like it. It's a bit old school, but stuff like this. So what I'm thinking is that some of these songs that you listen to when you're a teenager. Or a kid, you do you're total naive, and you're totally not affected by political correctness in any way. And so I think that's what I tried to do when I picked the song. So when I made the list, I just picked songs that I felt that had some connection to, or that I could identify with, which I did when I was a young boy, so that was or a teenager. So some of these songs were really personal to me, and that's how I based my choices. So that's why I also have to do another one probably in a couple of years. So, so many great songs. I mean, Kate Bush, one of my favorite female artists. I had at least 3 or 4 songs on the list. By her, and I just picked Running Up That Hill basically because in 2005, 2006, when I did a original album called The Duke,
excellent,
the Jorn album, and I did a song called Black Song on that record, and that song was influenced by Running Up That Hill, because at first we were thinking about recording a cover as a bonus track or something for that album, and when we were fooling around with arrangements, we ended up writing a new song, and you can easily hear it if you listen to Black Song. You will hear that there's a strong resemblance to Running Up That Hill, because the main structure was actually, the idea came from Running Up That Hill. So in a way, we already knew now that this arrangement with bass guitars and drums, in a more rocking way, that structure would work, because we already kind of, tried this 10 years ago or more. So that's why I chose Running Up That Hill, because I always thought that that's kind of unfinished business as well. We didn't do that song. We wrote a new song. We were influenced by Running Up That Hill, so now we did it the other way around and so forth. So, but there's some good songs. I love other songs by Kate Bush, like Cloud Busting. I love, there's so many, Hounds of Love, great songs of hers. And the same with all the other artists, from Foreigner to Journey. these American artists or bands that I grew up with. Great stuff. I did "Don't Stop Believing" because I thought this was a song that everybody expected with the piano, and when we tried it without, I thought, because we don't have a keyboard player at the moment, and there's no piano player in the band. We never use that anyway, usually, and it was more like a classic rock recipe in a way. So I thought, how do we do this and get away with it in a way? So I thought this song is so strong in itself. So if you take away some of those commercial elements, such as the piano, and just play it a bit more and try to find a structure or guitar structure that works instead, it could be great, and it worked. And I think the song itself is so good that even if we kind of made it less commercial, the song itself is the melody is so strong on its own. You don't really need the piano. You could do a lot of things under there.
Yeah.
And just, as long as you have that lyric with that vocal melody, that song would still stand out to be a very strong tune. So that was kind of like the idea with that song, So we never tried to record it to get some kind of radio hit or anything. We didn't release it as a single or anything. It's just, it's a good song. It's a great song, and same with Running Up That Hill, and I Know There's Something Going On. So I guess also the song by Paul Stanley, Live to Win, is it's a song I really like a lot. I always felt that Paul's version was great, and he's a great singer and all, and great songwriter. But I just felt that that song or that record is kind of it came a couple of years too late in a way, because I felt that we already had this kind of Evanescence style to so many albums, which was like the trend at the time in the beginning of the millennium. So I think when he did this record, I thought it was great. I instantly bought the album, and I played it all the time in my car, and I really liked it. But I started to think that this is really good, but something missing. Needs some more power, some rocking guitars, and maybe even louder guitars. And I heard all these ideas in my head. So, and I also thought that to change the choruses slightly, to transpose them a bit, and there using that kind of what we call the Eurovision recipe. You build it slightly. I mean, it's a very repetitive song. Chorus repeats over and over, and nothing wrong about that, because the song itself, I mean, it's such a good song with a positive message that you can do that. It's not a problem. But I was thinking that to have something different from Paul's version, I thought it would be cool to have some kind of build up, in a slightly different way than his version. So it worked out well, I think. It has some more energy to it, and slightly bigger sound and stuff. So but then again, I'm a big fan of Paul as a singer too. I think he's one of the greatest singers of all times, and he has that uniqueness. So I usually talk about the Elvis Presley factor when I talk about references to what I think is the best possible quality. So I think he's up there with guys like Elvis. You have like Freddie Mercury is there. You have a lot of people, regardless of fame, regardless of how how many times you went on Billboard or not, or
Yeah.
hitting the charts. It's nothing to do with it. It's just a matter. It's just a matter of quality and a certain uniqueness that people had. Many people had it in the 70s, or maybe many didn't have it. But the ones that had it, we actually got to know because we were not flooded with music like today.
Yeah.
And the internet, where everybody that wouldn't even get a record deal back in 1980, they can make records easily and make good-looking videos, and most of the metal bands of today, they don't even make a living from music.
Yeah.
They have great videos, they have great websites, but most of these guys have a day job. When Monday comes, they're at work somewhere, and then they rehearse, Wednesdays or whatever, and then you have the other ones. So it's like then you have the real talents out there that have to play to pay the rent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And these guys, they can't afford a proper album production. They can't afford to buy necessary marketing tools, or they don't have that extra cash or support. So
Yeah.
it's kind of it's a bit frustrating actually, because not long ago when I went into this Irish pub, there was this great band there, this great female singer. I was just totally surprised, and I was just sitting there, and it's like drinking a beer and ordering some food. And I just listened to this fantastic band with this great singer, and I thought, my God, nobody heard about this band or this singer. It's a shame, and then you can, and then everybody heard about these almost good, almost good metal bands or rock bands out there, because they have some kind of, political correct recipe that they followed.
Yeah.
Or a lot of
they
money.
had the right, they had the right video, animated stuff that looks really great, and looks like a Hollywood movie, stuff like that, and it's really perfect. And so it's kind of now, it seems to me now that people earn more credibility and respect from how they, on how they do the business and how they, play their cards. It's like it's not that much the performance anymore, and the soul,
Exactly.
feeling of the music. It's more about if you have the right video production and the right website, and you did something right with the marketing and the promotion to reach a certain level, and then you get to do that and tour and start pulling the people, then you did something right. So then you get the necessary cred,
Excellent.
to be accepted. And I think that's that's the trend of today, but that's totally opposite from what it used to be when I grew up.
Yeah.
And then again, back to the Elvis factor. It was a time when you had to be a true craftsman. You have to come from the soul,
Exactly.
from within you, and so that's unfortunately you see so many now that are unemployed, or they have to work hard just to pay their bills, and they can't afford to get themselves out there, and because everything is and the pressure of society, it's a very high tempo these days.
It is.
For sure.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, guys like me, I'm lucky because I came from the old days, and I've kind of like one leg in the old days and one in the modern age of music. So I started out in a time just before the internet started to escalate and things.
Well, we're
started to build up. So.
Well, we dig everything you do, and
Thanks,
we were lucky enough to have somebody actually turn us on to your music. And if people, Jorn, want to know where they can find more of your music to experience some of the the back catalog. Where's a great place to learn more about Jorn Lande?
Well, yeah, I think, there's so many records I've done, and some of it are like diverse as well. But I think if you want to know in like one record, I think to check out a record called Beyond Twilight, The Devil's Hall of Fame.
That's a great album.
That record sums up a lot of things, and also the three Masterplan records I did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So they're all all pretty good. So either one of them really would kind of and of course some of the Jorn stuff, like the songs like "Lonely Are the Brave," or it's a good track. But then again, I did so many different types of type of songs that I experimented a lot with my singing as well, singing into different musical landscapes and experimenting. So I think I'm more classic. I'm more from the classic rock.
You bet.
Scene to begin with. So I think that's where my heart lies the most. I just when I came out of the 90s, and I did some more experimental stuff, like for example Ark, Burn the Sun, which came out in the US on the Favored Nations, and I remember we signed a deal with Steve Vai, who was the guy who signed us on that label at the time. Don't know if he still works with the label, but I know he enjoyed especially that record a lot. So, but that's very diverse.
Yeah,
and it's like moving from changing like a chameleon vocally, almost like from this kind of Bjork-ish thing to it's like a mix. I did some stuff that was almost like a mix of Bjork and Robert Plant in a way. And
wow, that's a
but then I moved. Yeah, then I moved straight into other different directions, like more David Bowie-ish kind of landscape to suddenly more classic heavy rock again. So, and you also have other elements like influenced by Queen, a lot. You can hear that in my vocals as well, and also not to forget. Kansas and Steve Walsh.
Yes.
I also had a big influence from Steve.
Nice.
When I grew up, and I've always, I think I grew up in a small community. My grandmother was always, she was very Christian, and she was always sending me to Sunday school. So it's kind of, it was in Sunday school was at the local church. Behind the sacristy there, and I remember this was in the countryside, and it's a small community, farmland and farms everywhere. So and that's my background. So I guess that's one of the reasons also why I really liked Kansas a lot. Kerry Livgren stuff and Steve Walsh's vocals and these guys when they wrote lyrics. They were kind of biblical stuff, but I really liked the symbolism, and I could understand and identify with everything they wrote. Of course, I changed with the years, and my view on Christianity changed when I got older, and started questioning things. Like all of us. But when I look back at everything now, I really find that there's a good essence in some of the parts of Christianity. Those 10 Commandments kind of bring you a lot of good things. Good things to follow, and I think in the big picture that's also why I use a lot of symbolism from the Bible and taken from Christianity. Not because I'm necessarily that Christian. It's just because I think these are very strong metaphors.
Exactly.
And they're very understandable in a way. I mean, people can easily relate to what's said because Christianity is so established in the world. So instead of writing, by using a dictionary or looking at some program on TV like so many bands do today, watching Discovery or History Channel, and then they write the record about it, That's instead of doing it that way, just to try and find new words to explain something, to desperately trying to be original or new. I'm still sticking to the old school recipe, really, because I think the most important thing is for people to be able to understand what I'm singing about, to be able to identify with what I'm saying. So, and that's also why I still use a lot of symbolism from the Bible.
Excellent. Well, we're gonna throw on "Live to Win" right now, Jorn. We're both big Kiss fans here, and I hate to cut you short, but we're gonna get.
Oh, that's fine. I'm used to it.
Sorry about that. We're gonna get "Live to Win" on here, but we want to tell you what an honor it is to have you on the show. You're welcome here anytime, and we will play your music until they take us off the air.
Yeah.
I didn't even know we were on the air.
Yeah, so we're going to play "Live to Win." Jorn, Lande,
right.
You're always welcome on Rock and Metal Revival.
To catch the whole show of Rock and Metal Revival, all you have to do is check it out on these affiliates. Megarock Radios on Saturdays from 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and on Uncontrolled Noize Tuesdays at 1 a.m., Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern on UncontrolledNoise.com. And make sure that you leave them a message and tell them that you found Rock and Metal Revival on their stations.